Hey guys, welcome back to the multiplayer checkers tutorial. So this time we added a chat. So as you can tell, we're gonna have like some names going on here. This is going to be my handle name, so Nurkmine, and here's gonna be my real name, Michael. Let's host with someone whoever we want to host with, and then we just connected. As you can tell now, on this side we now have a chat. So we're gonna say hey friend, and Nurkmine says hey friend. On this side works as well. What's up? And yeah, we just have like a typical chat going on. Now, if we want to play this, well, if we want to play in the hot seat, we remove that chat because you don't need to be talking to yourself. Anyway, guys, that's what we do in this episode, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so my cold is gone now. I should be a little bit more energetic. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be creating a chat. It's going to be fairly simple actually, since we already have all the architecture in place. All we got to really do in terms of script is add some data parsing, add some command messages to the incoming data for both client and for server. So we're going to have a look really quickly inside of the server. And now let's just wait until Visual Studio opens up. Then what else are we going to need? Once we're done with the scripting part, we're going to have to create some kind of UI for the game scene as well. So, you know, something really simple. Alright, so let's head over to our incoming data for the server. And let's create some kind of, just a way to transfer the message. So, whenever we press on a certain button, we're going to have like our own little UI stuff going on. Once we press on a button, we send the messages. The messages is going to be included in this call. And I'm just going to create it, and we'll see as we go. So CMSG for CMessage, and then once we receive that message, we are supposed to know the person who sends it, because we get the server client here. We're going to broadcast that message to everybody. So we're going to say something like this. We're going to say SMessage, and then next to it, we'll add the name of that client, so plus client name, c.client name. And then we'll just parse it like this. So see the client name, we add 2 dots like that. And then afterward, we just push the message. Now the message is going to be a data at the index 1. And that should actually be it right there. Now, who are we broadcasting this to? We're broadcasting this to everybody. So every single client there is. So that's pretty much all we have to do in terms of the server. Now, how do we go about doing this on the client side? We head over to client side, go inside of the incoming data, then we'll do case SMessage, and then we'll do a break here. So here is where we're supposed to actually do something with that message. We don't really have a function that actually does that just yet, so we'll do checkerboard.instance, and we'll say something like chat message. That is going to take in a string. The string is going to be a data at the index 1. So we have our basic calls working. Now we need to create a function for those chat messages, and we also need to create a way to send that very first message, that is going to trigger what we just made. So let's head over to our checkerboard. We need 2 functions. So let's go say at the very bottom here, public void chat message takes in a string message, and this is the one we receive. So that is when we receive a message. Now when we send the message, it's going to be a little bit different. So public void send message, and that function is going to be called when we press on a button. Okay, so without going any further right now, we are going to leave these 2 functions right here. We're going to come back to them as soon as possible, but right now we need some kind of UI around that. So let's head over to the game scene, and I need to see the canvas right now. Where is our canvas? We are going to be modifying the canvas so we can actually have that chat going on. So let's right click here, why not? Add a new panel. The panel is going to be our chat. Let's position that somewhere that makes a little bit of sense. So maybe down here, bottom left, has a height of maybe like 250. Is that too small? It's not really too small, but it's actually just a little bit too big to fit on the screen here. Now you could also move the board towards this side. Well, I'm not really moving the board, I'm moving the camera right now. But what I'm going to do instead is just have a longer chat, and it's not going to be as wide. So this is going to be the chat panel. It's going to have a width of 250, 300. Yeah, 300 is just fine. Any height of, let's say, 500. Maybe even position that in the center. Something like that could work. Okay, so at this point, what I am going to do is start by creating some messages. So we need to create some kind of messages that we can put in there. So I was thinking about creating another panel. This is going to be a message. On the chat panel, I'll add a vertical layout group, so every single message is going to be positioned accordingly like that. However, I don't want to force expand the actual height of that panel, so just leave it small like this. But since we want to have like at least say 50 pixels, we're going to go back on our message, add a layout element. Say we want to have a minimum width or height, sorry, of say 50 for a single message. And that could actually work. Now on that message, we need to have a text. The text is going to be something like look mine 2 dot and then hello friend. I'm such a friendly person. Now let's make sure our message actually takes the whole box here. Going to center that as well. Maybe give it a small margin on the left side of say 10, and also on the right side of 10 as well. Why not? We could bump the actual size of the message, but I don't really feel like doing that too much because we don't have any word wrapping right now. Let's oh yeah, actually we do have word wrapping. We could leave it like that. Okay, something like that could work. And that is going to be our chat message prefab. Now every time we have a new message, we are going to just duplicate that. So let's put that somewhere here in the prefab folder. I'm going to take that message, drag it in the prefab folder, and just for testing purpose, spam it just a little bit. Now as you can tell, it's not going to go beyond that point, and that kind of sucks for a chat. Now what I'll do on this one is on the chat panel, I will add a mask. This way it doesn't go beyond that certain point. Now in terms of actually scrolling through that, I think you can do it, I'm not sure, but I think you can do it using the scroll rect. So if we just add a scroll rect on top of that, the content is going to be itself. Let's actually try moving that, see if it works. So I can simply boot this scene. This is going to boot in hot seat, and it kind of works. We're actually moving the chat around. That's not going to work in my case. What we'll do is we're going to wrap this around something else. So I just create another empty game object, put it just below the chat panel, and it's going to be the parent of the chat panel. So I'll just type in chat here. This is going to be a scroll rect, and the content is going to be the chat panel. And I'm just testing this out. I haven't done like a chat in a while, and as you can tell, it doesn't really work. The current problem we get, the problem that I see is that we're moving this thing, but we're also moving the mask as well. So what I feel like doing is head over to the chat, the one that was actually an empty game object at first. Then I'm going to add an image, and that image I'll just copy it over from the chat panel. So I'm on the chat panel right now, right click, copy component, go back to my chat and paste component values. So now it actually looks like this, and we're also going to copy over the rect transform of that chat panel. So copy and paste it here. Okay, this way we get something that is a bit weird, and as you can tell, it's not really working with what we have. So what we're going to be doing at this point is we are going to just position the chat at 0, 0, which is going to just put it here. Now the chat panel also needs to go back where it was. We're going to remove the mask component on it, and we're going to put it on the chat instead. Let's try this out now, see if we actually have our bounds. And as you can tell, we do have our bounds, and that's fairly cool. Now what we'd like to do at this point is also remove the panel we have behind this guy. So we have a chat panel, remove the panel here. This way all the messages are going to have the same exact opacity. Now what we want here is to add a component on our chat panel. The component is going to be a content size fitter, and the horizontal, that's fine. The vertical now has to fit with the minimum size. So we end up with something like this. If we just go there, we remove some messages, say we only have one now, and we're playing in the game, it always goes back in the center. Now if we add some more, we should actually be able to scroll down. It doesn't go back to the top, as you can tell. So this is something that we want here. Now to make sure that this actually starts at the bottom or at the top, depending on which side you want to have your chat. For me, I'll just have the messages starting at the bottom here. So for this to work, you need to just change the anchor of the chat panel. In this case, I'll put mine down here, modify the scale back to 0 in this case, and the scale, so the position Y, and then I can actually have this working. As you can tell, our new messages, our new messages are being pushed like this. So that's my latest message, this one at the bottom here. And then my oldest message is the one on the top here. So you could actually be reverting that by putting the anchor on the other side if you want to have your messages go from top to bottom, but I'll have mine from bottom to top. The reason I want to have this from bottom to top is so I can actually have my chat input just below here. So as soon as you type something in, you press on send, then you can see it popping just over here. So talking about that, I am going to create something else. I'm going to create something outside of the chat this time, because I don't want to have something that is hidden by this mask. I'll create a new UI. This is going to be an input field, and I will just give it pretty much the same exact position as this guy. So anchor it here. It's going to have a width of 300, position of 0, and then I'll just move it down manually. So we end up with something like this. Height of 50 in this case. And that's pretty much it for the input. Let's call it message input. Again, I'll be using the exact name here to get the stuff inside of that message box. Can also change the placeholder text for, well, enter text is actually quite good, but let's change the font size. Same thing here. And that's going to be it for my message text. Next one is going to be a button. So same thing, anchor it on the left, width of 300, position 0, and we'll just move it down to say about here. Let's actually make this fit the rest of the screen, so there's nothing below this thing. Right, this button is going to be the send button. The text inside of it is going to be send in all caps, because I love caps. Good times. Alright, so we end up with something like this. Now we just have to make sure everything works. On that button itself, we are going to find the checkerboard, which is somewhere here, the board. Drag and drop it in the onClick function. Now find the function which is made for this, that is the send message. Or I see it's the, is it send message? Yeah, okay, so the naming of my function is not very cool, because Unity has a function called send message as well, and we don't want to really mess around with that. The send message we want is the one without a parameter, so this guy here. But just to make sure I don't confuse things too much, we're gonna say send chat message. Now we go back in Unity. Let's just make sure it's a good one. Checkerboard, send chat message, and it works. Alright, so when we click on this, we send a message, everything is cool. Now what we're going to be needing at this point is a few reference. We're going to need a reference to the chat panel, so this guy, because it's the guy that contains the other message. So we'll need his transform, and we'll also need a reference to the message prefab. Let's actually delete our message and go back right in our code. Go at the very top here. This is going to be a public transform chat message container, and below it is going to be public game object message prefab. So let's quickly go back and put our reference. So on my board here, I have the chat message container. Chat message container will be the chat panel. Also have the message prefab, this guy. And now we have our reference. All that is left to do is to code those two functions. So when we receive a message, we are going to say game object go is equal to instantiate. We instantiate a message prefab as a game object, and then we do go.set, or actually go.transform.set parent. The parent is a message container, so chat message container, here it is. Now on that very object there is our text component, so we have to go get it. So go.get component text, or actually I think it's in the children, so get component in children text.text is equal messages. And that's it, really. I think that's really all we have to do in the chat message. Now when we send something, let's grab the input first. So I'll do an input field if, I can't do that. Okay, input field I is equal to game object dot find. We are going to find the object name message input, and inside of it there is something else. There is the component. So get component input field, just like this. Now at this point we check, okay, so if I dot message or I dot text is equal to nothing, then we just do a return because there is no text there. Now if I has something in it, we are going to grab that message and send it. Actually client dot send, and we want to send what was it already? So we're sending this to the server. Let's go see what it was already. So it's C message. So C message, and the message we're sending is the following. So I.text. Now I just thought of something. We can only do this if we are on the multiplayer. If we're playing hot seat, we can't really do that. So I'll just make sure to disable that as well. If we're playing hot seat, we'll do that in a moment. So anyway, client.send C message, our text is being sent, and after that let's make sure we clear the text. So I.text is equal to nothing. This should actually work, and we are going to give it a try before fixing the multiplayer thing we just talked about. So I'm going to boot this inside something else, inside of another game here. Let's open up my menu scene, have somebody hosting. So I'll be hosting here. I'll be connecting on this side, and we have this text. Now obviously it doesn't fit to all the screen size. We'll have to do something about this, or make sure our player plays in 16:9. This is not 16:9. And at this point I think we can send messages. So let's just do something, send, and the host said stad, and it just keeps sending messages like that. Good time, a lot of spam, but as you can tell, it seems to work on this hand, and it also works on that hand here. However, I'm not going to be able to test it here because my scaling is not good. Let me just reboot that again with a 16:9 resolution as well. Let's go for something like 1280 by 720, that's 16:9. And I'm going to be hosting again. Let's connect. And as you can tell, now it matches what we see on this side. So we're going to send something here, say hello or hey. It says client, hey. Hello, it says host, hello. So as you can tell, we have our chat. It's working quite well. Now, what I mentioned earlier is that we need to make sure that we are in the multiplayer when we actually use the chat, because if we're not in multiplayer, we're going to have a problem when we come down to this line here. We're going to try and send something, but there's no client and there's no server. So what we're going to be doing is in the start, where is the start? Here it is. In the start, we're going to disable these things if there is no client. So we have something here, if client, we'll just use the same exact condition. If client does not exist, so if client, and then we're in the else statement, if it does not exist, let's actually just toggle off the, not the canvas, we are going to toggle off the chat the message input, and also the send button. So all of these things except the alert window. So I'll just be very, very lazy here and do something of the sort. So transform canvas is equal to, or I'll just name it C here, is equal to game object dot find, and we're finding the object called canvas like this. Then I'll do a canvas dot transform, because we're getting the transform. Then I'll do a for each transform t in C. So for every children transform in the canvas, I'll do a t dot do I have a set active here? I don't. So t dot game object set active to false, just like this. So we're turning everything back to false, and then I'll do c dot get child at the index 0 dot game object dot set active to true. That is the alert message. So I'm turning everything to off, and then I'm turning on the alert back again. And if we play in hot seat now, the chat is gone, and we still have our alerts. And guys, that is where I'm going to end today's episode. We've just added the chat. In the next one, we're going to just conclude things. We're just going to patch everything up and make sure everything is clean, looking good before we call this a day. So thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and if you did, please leave me a like. I always appreciate that quite a lot. And also leave a comment if you just want to discuss about something. Who knows? Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.